What is up, everyone? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we will be reacting to the racing pedigree of the stock car at Le Mans. I'm looking forward to getting into this video because I did a similar video on, I think it was how NASCAR was faster than Ferrari at Le Mans or something like that, and it's one of my most viewed reactions now. So I have a feeling that this is what this video is gonna be about. If it isn't, then I'm completely wrong and I don't know what it will be about, but I am looking forward to it as one of you has recently requested this video, so I'm just going to shut up and we'll get straight into it.
In just a couple of months, endurance racing fans, Formula 1 fans, and maybe most importantly, NASCAR fans will all follow the progress of one specific car at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the Garage 56 Camaro. The extensively modified NASCAR stock car will be piloted by the international all-star squad, who each have an impressive resume. Representing Formula 1, there's 2009 world champion Jenson Button.
Yeah.
Representing endurance racing, there's Mike Rockenfeller, one of the few people in the world who have class or overall wins at the 24-hour races at Spa, the Nürburgring, Daytona, and Le Mans. And representing NASCAR, there's 7-time Cup Series champion Jimmy Johnson. Seeing the bewinged stock car Camaro duke it out against GTE class cars, which mainly consist of European supercars like the Ferrari, Aston Martin, and Porsche, will definitely be a sight to behold. But while some people know of NASCAR's ambitious but troubled history at Le Mans, most people have kind of forgotten that Camaros have raced at Le Mans before.
Wow,
and one of them also featured a multiple NASCAR Cup Series champion. So let's see what these all-American muscle cars got up to in France.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Before we can talk about this strange-looking Camaro, we have to look at this strange-looking Camaro, a dirt track late model. These tube frame specials dressed up to look like all sorts of contemporary muscle cars raced all over the Midwest in spectacular sideways fashion. High horsepower combined with a wild aerodynamic bodywork provided some excellent racing.
The late models are
an
very
important stepping stone for some
very cool
in the world of NASCAR. This was grassroots racing at its finest. These cars may look quite basic underneath, but don't be fooled. There's a lot more to them than just some tubes in a V8 engine. If you wanted to race a late model car yourself, or just about any tube frame special really, one of the go-to guys to build you a chassis was Dennis Frings. His cars were winning events left, right and center, and in the early 80s this caught the attention of one Billy Hagan. Hagan had made quite a significant amount of money in the crude oil business. More specifically with so-called stratigraphic readings that tell you if you're gonna hit oil or not before you even start digging for it. Hagan put his money to good use, expanding his business into an industry standard and also by funding various racing teams. Hagan needed a new car for a special project and turned to Dennis Frings to build the chassis for it. But this car wouldn't end up on an oval track. This one would be meant for the road courses. While oval racing and tube frame specials went hand in hand, the world of circuit racing had only recently adopted the formula, mainly thanks to the AAGT or All-American GT cars, the US's answer to the wildly popular European Group 5 racing category. Throughout the 70s and 80s, the once so dominant Europeans got more and more local resistance from tube frame monsters like Decon Monzas and Greenwood Corvettes. Hagan, after running a Monza for a while, wanted to step up to a bigger level, as he intended to take one of these AAGT cars to France and race it in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. The aforementioned Monza and Corvette AAGT cars from Decon Engineering and Greenwood had attempted to race and win at Le Mans before, but neither of them made it to the finish line due to mechanical issues. 2 NASCAR stock cars tried as well, with similar results. Young tanks at Le Mans in the 70s seemed to be cursed. They were all incredibly fast down the straights, but none of them made it to the line. Hopefully in the 80s things would be different, and this would be the car that was supposed to bring Le Mans glory back to the United States.
Stretched
Dennis
out.
Frings had built Billy Hagan an all-new AAGT machine.
What I would say to describe it.
Of similarities with his usual oval racing chassis, as in it was almost exactly the same. Powered by a 6.4-liter V8 capable of over 600 horsepower, this Camaro with dirt oval roots would end up being the biggest car on the 1981 Le Mans 24-hour entry list. But looks can be deceiving, as this was a tube frame car with lightweight body panels. The massive American battleship only weighed just over 1,000 kilograms.
Incredible.
Team owner Hagan would be driving the car himself, together with racing driver coach Bill Cooper. The duo would be joined by racing royalty and one of America's all-time greatest stock car racers, Cale Yarborough, 4 times winner of the Daytona 500 and back-to-back NASCAR champion in 1976, 77,
I don't think I've heard of him
78.
before.
The Team Stratagraph Camaro would prove to be a rocket ship, clocking speeds far north of 300 km an hour at several occasions down the Mulsanne Strait.
Wow.
During an all-out qualifying run at night, Cale got up to a staggering 354 km an hour, or 220
No
miles
way.
per hour. Worryingly though, it also ended up getting a bit too familiar with the escape roads, as stopping the car at those speeds proved to be more difficult than expected. Despite the looming brake issues, Cale Yarborough managed to put the car in 39th place overall. It would line up on the starting grid surrounded by 2 Ferraris and 2 BMW M1s, far more exotic material compared to the Milwaukee-built pseudo-stock car.
Yeah.
After the flag dropped, Cale set off to do what he does best. In the corners, the Camaro wasn't as agile as the European opposition, but the Mulsanne Strait was the Camaro's turf. After serving his first pit stop after 3/4 of an hour of racing, Cale set off again for his second stint. Sadly, it would also be his last. While heading towards the Arnage corner, the quite rudimental drum brakes on the Camaro had failed. Cale had two options: head to the grass straight into a pack of spectators and marshals who shouldn't have been there in the first place, or smash head-on into the guardrail. He chose the latter option. After the impact, Cale crawled out of the car to see it had wedged itself in between the guardrails, which now reached all the way up to the windshield. With no way of getting it out there, the race was over. Not content with ending up as just another failed American Le Mans effort, Hagen promised to come back with his team in 1982. 1 hour of racing wasn't enough. He wanted to do the full 24. As promised, the Stratagraph team was back the following year, now a lot more prepared and featuring a 2-car lineup. The original 1981 Camaro had gotten an extensive aerodynamic upgrade courtesy of some bodywork usually found on the short oval cars, and it had its drum brakes replaced with modern and significantly more reliable disc brakes. The engine was now stroked back to just 5.7 liters, again for reliability's sake. It would not be driven by Cale Yarborough again. His Le Mans appearance remained a one-off. Stock car racing duo Herschel McGriff and Dick Brooks were in charge of bringing the so-called snowplow Camaro home. The second new car, despite sharing a similar chassis, featured completely different bodywork, resembling that of the new for 1982 3rd-gen Camaro. It had a smaller 5.4-liter V8, good for a healthy 540 horsepower. Team owner Billy Hagen would be driving it together with Gene Felton. The added aero on the number 80 car resulted in a slightly slower qualifying time of almost exactly 4 minutes, just over half a second slower than the previous year. The new number 81 car would end up being the tip of the spear for the American effort, with a time of 3 minutes 52 seconds, good for 33rd place overall, behind the vast collection of brand new Group C cars, but ahead of a decent amount of BMWs, Ferraris and Porsches. The following day, the 2 Camaros and 54 other cars set off. All Team Stratagraph had to do to best their previous result was get past the 1 hour mark, and luckily both cars did with ease and kept a very competitive pace. But while the number 81 car was starting to get into a battle for the lead with one of the 924s, the other car hit transmission issues. 2 hours would be lost in the pits trying to fix it, and all hopes of a decent result faded away. But the crew never thought about retiring the car, and were dead set on making it to the line. With the number 80 back on track, all eyes were on the number 81 of Hagen and Brooks. And not only their own team was keeping track of its impressive pace. The number 87 Porsche 924 GTR of the BF Goodrich team was running like a dream, but the Camaro kept hounding it. Even though the 924 was slowly building up its lead, the team knew that if something went wrong, the Camaro would become a legitimate threat, and they had reasons to be worried. Their second car had already retired earlier. Worry turned into panic as late into the race the 924 lost its fifth gear, which was a disaster on the long Mulsanne Strait. By now the Camaro was 10 laps down, but that healthy lead kept getting smaller and smaller. Unbeknownst to them, both the 80 and 81 Camaro also had transmission issues, although
they've all got issues.
Due to French regulations, the best gearbox they could use wasn't all that different from a stock 4-speed. But while the Porsche had to be nursed home, Hagen and Brooks kept going all out. In the end, they managed to go from 10 laps down to 3, and bag an impressive second place finish in the IMSA GTO class. Third on the podium would have been the other Camaro. That also made it to the line, but was not classified in the end as it only did 141 laps. All cars need to do at least 70% of the total distance the race winner did, and in this case that was 359 laps set by the Porsche 956 of X and Bell.
They were quite far off then.
This, and the sister car just missing out on a potential win, the race can be seen as a resounding success.
Well, yeah, compared to the previous years they've had.
1981, to finishing on the podium in 1982. The Stratagraph team finally showed an all-American crew with an all-American car can be competitive again at Le Mans, something many before it failed to do. The number 81 Camaro went on to do some sporadic racing back stateside with some impressive results. Class wins at the 24 Hours of Daytona and 12 Hours of Sebring in 1984, to name a few. Button, Rockefeller and Johnson in their Camaro will probably have plenty of trouble trying to finish in a better position at Le Mans than Hagan and Brooks did in their Camaro as they crossed the line in 17th overall. If nothing goes wrong, the Garage 56 NASCAR will be the first true NASCAR stock car
look at that.
to finish Le Mans.
Insane.
The best result for a Camaro at Le Mans.
I love the all black as well.
Will probably stay with the Stratagraph team.
I know it didn't race in all black, but
of ambitious pseudo stock cars with dirt tracking roots.
That was crazy. It did actually give like the history of Americans trying to race stock cars in Le Mans before, and I didn't know any of that history. So that was really interesting to learn about. I had heard that like stock cars had struggled in Le Mans before, but I didn't know the extent of that struggle and I didn't know the actual history behind it. So watching that was really good for me. I really did enjoy that video, so thank you to the people who requested this video. And with that being said, if you have any other videos that you'd like me to react to, drop them in the comments. I'm working my way to everybody's suggestions at the moment. If you did want to check out any of my other socials or become a Patreon member and get early access to videos like this or top priority review suggestions, then you can do all of that down below. But I hope you enjoyed today's reaction, and I will catch you next time for the next one. Bye.